WWE's production team are one of the best and most well-polished in either sports or entertainment. However, they are not exactly Curt Hennig, and on occasion, a mistake on their end or a mistake by a wrestler that the production team didn't catch in time has resulted in certain things being exposed. And no, I'm not talking about William Regal at No Mercy 2006, even if I am thinking about it all the time. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 WWE production fails that expose the product. Join us. Number 10. Fail in a cell. The Hell in a Cell stipulation is one that is, or at least should, be reserved for the most bitter of blood feuds. It's a match type that really isn't, or at least shouldn't be, any laughing matter. But eagle-eyed viewers watching Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley scrap over the WWE title in the main event of the Hell in a Cell 2021 pay-per-view couldn't help but chuckle when a poor piece of production work momentarily killed the seriousness of the situation. After the Almighty put the Scottish Warrior through a table at ringside, the camera focused in on Drew selling the pain of the move. However, as he was doing so, a mysterious rogue hand appeared from under the ring and pushed pieces of the table debris toward McIntyre. Now, Hornswoggle wasn't on the show and there were no other run-ins on the night, so what gives? Turns out the person under the ring was actually removing a crash pad that had been placed under the table to soften the blow, and the person tasked with doing so unintentionally ruined the illusion. Number 9. Brutus the Barber botches a breakup. Before they had their weird little falling out, Ed Leslie would follow Terry Bollea to the end of the earth. The two men were IRL besties and parlayed their friendship into an on-screen relationship between Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Booty Man Zodiac disciple with no name brother Bruti Beefcake. And I still somehow missed off about 4 or 5 of his gimmicks there. Anyway, Beefcake was routinely on hand to save Hogan, including at the main event when the Hulkster's mega-powered tag partner Randy Savage turned on him. Yet on this occasion, he was there a little too early, as fans could clearly see Brutus wander into the shot well before he was supposed to wrest the world title belt away from the Macho Man. Beefcake had to backtrack out of the way, take his shirt off, and return to make the belated save a solid 20 seconds later. It's so strange that one of the most iconic angles in WWE history was so messed up, as Hogan, not realizing they were already rolling, had earlier asked the camera guy for his cue before WWE hastily cut away to something else. Number 8. Hawk in your house. Unless two little people are booked in a TLC match, a WWE pay-per-view pre-show is generally speaking a waste of bloody time. This was especially true during the Attitude Era, where the free-for-all shows were basically hard-sell appetizers designed to get undecided punters to shell out for the main course. Those who were watching the free-for-all prior to 1998's No Way Out would have at least been tipped off to something major that was going to happen later in the night. As Sonny was interviewing Vader backstage, Road Warrior Hawk seemingly didn't have his watch on, as he didn't realize it was in fact Vader time and walked out of a door right into shots. Now, that ordinarily wouldn't be such a big deal, but the Legion of Doom weren't booked on the show. Yet there was Hawk in full makeup wandering about backstage. Sure enough, the Road Warriors did emerge following the NWA North American Championship match between Jeff Jarrett and Bradshaw later that evening. They got a typically enormous pop when their music hit, but those who were tuned into the pre-show wouldn't have been so surprised to see him. Number 7. A Dudley Do Wrong. The Soundman doesn't have the most difficult job in theory, but there have been quite a few music mishaps on WWE TV over the years. One of the most common is for the wrong music to play at the end of a match, such as when the Hardy Boys entrance music played after Crash Holly had retained his hardcore title in a 6-man scramble at Backlash 2000. Gee, I hope somebody got fired for that blunder. The Hardy Boys were involved again when, 18 months later, WWE's music maestro prematurely hit the switch and spoiled the outcome of Matt and Jeff's match. The brothers were competing against the APA and the Dudley Boys in a triple threat elimination match for Bubba and Devon's WCW straps at Rebellion 2001 and managed to get half the job done when a twist of fate sent Farouk and Bradshaw packing. Whoever was in charge of the music, though, must have only been half paying attention, as they clearly saw a 3 count and just pressed play. Unfortunately, they didn't play the Hardys' stock number, but the music for the Dudleys, thus spoiling the end of the match. I mean, it was a UK exclusive pay-per-view, so the titles were obviously never going to change hands, but still. Number 6, Rise Above Botches. There was a lot to admire about WWE's Rise Above Hate storyline from 2012. Actually, scrap that, there was nothing to admire about it, unless you hated Zack Ryder as much as WWE's creative team clearly did. One moment that provided a bit of unintentional entertainment value was the segment where Kane attempted to abduct Eve Torres in an ambulance. John Cena was being interviewed backstage on the February 13th, 2012 edition of Raw when he heard a woman scream and a loud crash happening off screen. Big hero John ran off to save the day as the camera cut to Eve walking, yes, walking, into an ambulance of her own volition. Meanwhile, Kane stood there waiting for his cue to close the vehicle's back doors, which was promptly given to him by a producer whose rolled up piece of paper made it into shots. I get there's live TV and mistakes can and will happen, but this was total amateur hour and only served to make a crap segment, and storyline for that matter, much more laughable. Number 5, A Tale of Two Chokeslams. After years of disappointing performances and being lumbered with barely mobile big men, The Undertaker finally had a WrestleMania match worthy of his famed winning streak. Fittingly, it took place at Mania X7, which to this day is regarded as one of the best WWE pay-per-views of all time. It helped that he was in there with a ring general like Triple H, and that the two men were permitted to brawl around the Houston Astrodome, making their match different from anything else on the card. At one point, the two men made their way to some sort of scaffold tower area, which the dead man launched the game off with an almighty chokeslam. Because of the camera angles and the timing of the cut, it looked like Taker damn near killed him with the move. But then, WWE opted to show a replay from another angle that showed that A, the move wasn't actually delivered from any great height, and B, Helmsley landed onto a big old comfy crash pad. While nobody was expecting the cerebral assassin to take a 10-foot drop onto solid concrete, WWE really did the performers no favors with this production choice. Number 4, Rage Outside the Cage. The purpose of a steel cage match is to keep the combatants together inside the ring so that they can finally settle their differences while keeping outside forces away from interfering. Unfortunately for WWE, that has turned out to be more literal than they would like it to be on a couple of occasions, such as on the March 6th, 2003 edition of SmackDown, where Brock Lesnar met Paul Heyman in a cage match that was naturally more of an angle than an actual competitive contest. The next big thing had Heyman up for the F5, which was Kurt Angle's cue to enter the cage via the door and clip Brock's knee. Regrettably, the door lock legitimately jammed, and after trying to enter for about a minute, Kurt opted to climb over the top instead, by which point Lesnar had Heyman on his shoulders for an eternity. Angle's debacle paled in comparison to the Mayor Mark Henry had when he was trying to break the cage door's lock when interfering in the tag team title bout between Eminem and Rey Mysterio and Batista almost 3 years later, mind. After struggling for several minutes, the world's strongest man lived up to his name by physically breaking into the cage, but the wrestlers had been required to sell for an excessive amount of time while it all went down. Number 3, That Bike Doesn't Work For Me, Brother. Hulk Hogan famously wasn't too keen on doing jobs for other wrestlers because, as a megastar, he believed that losing would only diminish his aura. Well, I wonder how he felt about his aura when a motorbike dropped the big leg on him live on Raw. The Hulkster was feuding with The Undertaker at the time in a rivalry that had produced such wonderful television as the dead man tying Hogan to his hog and dragging him around the arena. On another occasion, Hogan commandeered Taker's bike and attempted to chase him off by riding it up the entrance ramp. I say attempted because Terrible Terry stalled the damn thing 3 times, drawing audible laughs from the crowd. The Phenom had to flee from the scene despite the fact that the bike was sputtering at about 3 miles an hour, which made the #1 contender to the Undisputed Championship look really strong, didn't it? Hogan eventually got the thing to work, after which he drove it backstage and ran it over with a semi-truck, which mercifully didn't stall on him. Number 2, Walkth Man. Hogan wasn't the last megastar to be thwarted by a faulty vehicle, as around a year later, his old WCW rival Goldberg was also left looking like a proper wally when he couldn't get his ride to work properly. The former WCW World Heavyweight Champion hadn't been in the company but for a few weeks when he was made to look something a lot less than cool during a backstage segment with The Rock. I mean, Goldust putting a blonde wig on him had already kind of ruined the mystique a little bit, but this certainly didn't help things. Goldberg Goldberg ran backstage in pursuit of the Great One, who he believed had just hightailed it out of the arena in a limo. Hopping in his Plymouth Barracuda, reversing it and attempting to catch up with his foe, Goldberg was dismayed to have the engine stall on him multiple times before getting out of the car and running after The Rock, who soon appeared from the opposite direction on foot. According to Bruce Pritchard, a stunt coordinator had been messing with the car during rehearsal and had accidentally flooded the engine. Hey, at least Big Bill didn't use his arm to smash its window this time, I guess. Number 1. Defanging the Viper. Randy Orton was said to have put the kibosh on Kofi Kingston's push after Kofi seemingly messed up the finish to a triple threat match, also featuring John Cena, on the January 11th, 2010 edition of Monday Night Raw. Considering the Viper was all too happy to yell "stupid" at Kingston live on air, I wonder what he said to the Music Man following the November 16th, 2009 episode of Raw. Orton was attempting to kill the legend of Roddy Piper on the show, which just so happened to be emanating from Madison Square Garden, and reared back for his deadly punt kick. As he went to kick the Rowdy Scott in the head, however, Randy hesitated, looked around, and gave a half-hearted stomp instead, right as Kofi's music played. Kingston's theme was obviously supposed to interrupt Orton in full flow, but by being a second too late, it made the supposedly ruthless villain stop in his tracks, exposing his act. Making the scene that much funnier was Randy, never one to be shy about expressing himself, turning around to the hard cam and throwing his hands up in the air in exasperation. Stupid Kevin Dunn. Stupid! Stupid!